What is up, Xaliter here. If you watch any of my build guides, you probably noticed that enchantments come up a lot. Most, if not all builds benefit from them. Some basically require them, and yet the enchanting system in Outward doesn't really explain itself. So I put this guide together to walk you through the whole thing, from getting your first recipe to actually performing the enchant. Enchanting lets you permanently add special effects to your equipment and weapons. We're talking things like elemental damage, resistances, stat bonuses, and build-defining passes, effects you can't get any other way. There are two types of enchanting in Outward. General Enchanting, which is what this video covers, and Enchanting Guild Enchanting, which is locked behind building New Sirocco, a very late game, very grindy achievement that a lot of players never reach. To enchant something, you need 5 things: an enchantable piece of equipment, an enchantment recipe, an enchanting pedestal, enchanting pillars, and the ingredients, which includes a specific incense. A quick note on equipment: most gear can be enchanted with certain universal enchantments available for main hand weapons, bows, and armor in any slot. On top of that, some enchantments are exclusive to specific gear sets or individual items. The recipe scroll will always tell you exactly which equipment is compatible with, so you'll know before you commit to farming for it. The enchanting pedestal and pillars can be purchased from alchemist and arcanist shops. I'll cover those vendors in the next section. Enchantment recipes come as scrolls that you buy from specific vendors. There are 6 vendors in the game that carry them: Agatha in Chersonese, Vey in Berg, Lane in Monsoon, Tuan in Levant, Ryan Sullivan in Harmattan, and the Apprentice Ritualist in Caldera. The catch is that these vendors rotate their stock every time you reset them, either by resting or sleeping, or being in another region for at least 7 days in a row. They don't always carry the recipe you need, so you may need to reset them a few times. I tracked 10 rounds of stock across the 6 vendors, and based on that limited data, there are a few things that I noticed. Aegis is the most available enchantment in the game. It appears in every vendor's rotation and showed up 15 times across the data. If you need Aegis, you shouldn't have to wait long regardless of where you are. On the other end of the spectrum, a large number of enchantments are exclusive to a single vendor. If you need Castigation, for example, Lane and Monsoon is your only source. Isolated Rumination, Economy, Forge Fire, and several others are exclusive to Ryan Sullivan in Harmattan, who has by far the largest and most varied selection. If you're hunting a specific recipe and not finding it locally, Harmattan is the best place to check. Whiplash, Beast of Burden, Rainbow Hex, Inner Warmth, Inner Cool, and Enkindle are available from 3 or more vendors, so those are relatively easy to track down. 4 enchantments, Thirst, Weightless, Blaze Blue, and Filter, didn't appear in any of the 10 rounds of data I collected. These may appear in later rotations, so if you're hunting one of them, keep resetting and checking. Every enchantment requires a specific type of incense, and you'll need to craft it. I like to organize the incenses into 2 tiers, which makes the system a lot easier to understand. Tier 1 incenses are Admiral, Monarch, Cecropia, Chrysalis, and Pale Beauty. These are the base incenses, and there are also ingredients in the Tier 2 recipes. Tier 2 incenses are Luna, Apollo, Comet, Morpho, and Sylphina. Each one is an upgraded version of a Tier 1 incense. Luna upgrades Admiral, Apollo upgrades Monarch, Comet upgrades Cecropia, Morpho upgrades Chrysalis, and Sylphina upgrades Pale Beauty. To craft a Tier 1 incense, you need 2 Dreamer's Root and 1 elemental particle of the matching type. Dreamer's Root can be gathered across multiple regions, but it's most abundant in the open world of the Antique Plateau. To craft the Tier 2 incense, you need 1 Purifying Quartz, 1 Tourmaline, 1 elemental particle of the same type used in the Tier 1 version, and the Tier 1 incense itself. Purifying Quartz drops from galvanic golems in the Antique Plateau and from elementals. Tourmaline comes from mining iron or palladium veins in the Antique Plateau or rich iron veins anywhere. Each incense type corresponds to a specific element. Admiral and Luna use light particles, Monarch and Apollo use fire, Cecropia and Comet use decay, Chrysalis and Morpho use ice, Pale Beauty and Sylphina use ether. Elemental particles drop from elementals of the matching element, fire particles from fire elementals, ice particles from frost elementals, and so on. Elementals can be found across several regions including the Antique Plateau, but the most reliable farming method is the Clock Tower puzzle. To use the Clock Tower puzzle, go to the downtown clock in the Antique Plateau and check the color of the effect on the altar. Each color corresponds to one of the 5 elements. Then, locate the lamppost in the Antique Plateau that matches that color. The map on screen shows where each lamppost is. Head to that area and you should find an elemental of the corresponding element. A couple things to know: if the altar has no effect when you arrive, sleep for 7 in-game days in Harmattan or a dungeon to reset the open world. And if the color on the altar changes while you're traveling to the lamppost, the elemental will disappear, so move quickly. After killing the elemental, return to the altar, then sleep for 1 hour and check the altar again. The color should change, giving you a new elemental type to hunt. If it shows a color you've already completed, reset again until you get a new one. Once you've killed one of each of the 5 elemental types, the altar will turn white. After that, a full set of all 5 elementals spawns at Duvernay Plaza, which effectively doubles your particle farming. One more thing before we get to the actual enchanting: if you're crafting incense manually by placing ingredients yourself rather than using the recipe list, any ingredient you place incorrectly is permanently lost. Use the recipe list in your alchemy kit to pull up the required ingredients automatically and avoid this. Once you have your recipe, your incense, and your equipment, here's how to actually perform the enchant. Place your enchanting pedestal down first, then stand at the center of the pedestal and orient yourself using your compass, not based on the direction the pedestal is facing. Facing the pedestal toward a cardinal direction before placing it can help, but it's not required. What matters is your compass. Your recipe will tell you where to place each pillar using directional notation: N, S, E, W for north, south, east, west, and C or F for close or far. Close is a couple of steps from the center of the pedestal, far is a dodge roll plus a couple steps. Place each pillar, load it with the correct incense, and check the recipe for any conditions that need to be met. Some enchantments require certain weather conditions or require to be in a specific location. Make sure those conditions are active before you proceed. One critical thing: do not place more pillars than the recipe requires. Even empty, unloaded pillars will prevent the enchant from working. Only place exactly what the recipe calls for. Place your equipment on the pedestal and initiate the enchant. And a final warning: equipment can only be enchanted once. There is no removing or replacing an enchantment. Choose carefully before you commit. If you're using the legacy system, enchanted gear retains its enchantment when placed in a legacy chest and picked up in a future playthrough. So if you've put the work into enchanting a piece of gear, you won't lose that investment when you start a new character. That covers everything you need to know about enchanting and outward. If you want to see some of these enchantments in action, check out my build guides. A few of them highlight specific enchantments and why they're worth the effort. Otherwise, I'll see you later.